Okay. The November 3rd, 2025 meeting of the Hayden Planning and Zoning Commission is now in order. We're in session. Do we have roll call?
Yes, we do. Commissioner Erickson,
Here.
Commissioner Grano.
Here.
Grano or Grano?
Grano.
Grano. Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Morris. Absent. Commissioner Vergas.
Here.
And Chair Taylor.
Here. All right, please stand for the pledge. Tony, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
No. Oh, you would not? I don't have it memorized anymore.
I will lead us. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Takes you back to elementary school.
Yeah. Been a while.
I'll take Brandon back.
Yeah.
Do we have any conflicts of interest this evening?
No.
No. Okay. Consent calendar, which consists of approval of Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting minutes from October 20th and approval of written recommendation to City Council for the 2045 Comprehensive Plan Update. Any discussion or motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting minutes from October 20th, 2025.
How about the,
Oh. And is it the consent calendar that I'm making a motion for?
yep.
And I also make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any?
Aye.
Okay, it passes. We've approved the consent calendar. Now we'll move into our workshop. Donna?
I made you guys copies of the presentation in case you want to take notes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, Donna.
Quiet times.
I think that you guys all have code books up there, kind of beside you to share with you each other.
We
They're
do.
black books, black binders.
Oh, yep.
Hey, Bob.
So I'm going to kind of refer back to portions of the code books so you guys can see them actually in writing. So this is a miscellaneous code amendments workshop. So just as a little bit of background, why does the city look at code amendments? Partially because when we get updates to long-range plans, like the comprehensive plan, for example, or policies and or standards, sometimes we have to tweak what's in the code so that it aligns better. Sometimes we have updates to state law. So they came through in July and made a bunch of changes to like daycare centers, daycares in and of themselves, and how they're regulated in the state. So we want to get in compliance with what they're doing. The state also changed areas of impact to, the area of city impact that it was called previously. Now it's called area of impact, not to be confused with artificial intelligence, although they're the same initials. Sometimes we do updates to code based on clarification. If I read it one way and each one of you read it a different way, then there's a lot of confusion and it doesn't work well. Then our legal counsel doesn't really appreciate it either because it doesn't work well. And then sometimes we have the addition of new codes And as we talked about in the previous workshop on codes, we were talking about a new zone designation that may be coming forward, that rural zone designation, as a result of the comprehensive plan update. So it's all of us trying to, look through our binoculars or look through our telescope at what we want the future to look like, and then how to get the codes written so that we can drive ourselves in that same path. So at our last meeting, we talked about the fact that there are some codes that the only folks that need to be reviewing, the only hearing body that looks at them is the city council. And that there are other codes that are looked at by both planning and zoning and city council. So if you kind of look at the 13 titles that are in this black book, Titles 1, which is administration of the city. Title 2 talks about boards and commissions. Title 3 talks about business licenses and regulations. Title 4 is health and safety. That's where the nuisance ordinance comes in, or the noise ordinance, quiet zones. Title 7 is public ways and property. It has to do with encroachment permits and public streets and what happens there. Title 8 is utilities. That's where the sewer, wastewater is, the stormwater lands there, pretreatment is in that code, how we deal with our above ground utilities, and then how the telecom is addressed. That's all in Title 8. Title 9 talks about building regulations and which portions of the code sections the state has adopted and the city's also adopted, or if there are any exceptions or exclusions that happens in Title 9. Impact fees happens in Title 9. Title 10 is land use and development. That's talking about private roads, predominantly is in that section. And then Title 13 is flood prevention. We have a handful of lots in the floodplain down around Honeysuckle Beach. That's what that chapter is about. And then Title 11 is zoning, and Title 12 is subdivision. And those two titles are definitely ones that the Planning and Zoning Commission will weigh in on, those changes, before they go to the City Council. So for Title 11, anything that gets changed for a zone map or a zone text has to follow the same standards of approval. So when you're looking at a zone text in Title 11, you kind of marry it up to some standards of approval. And the 5 standards of approval that you would find if you were to look on your flow charts that were in your red books, some of you have red books with you, some of you got red books tonight. If you went and looked in your red book and found a zone map amendment flow chart, zone map amendment flow chart.
Almost there. Got it.
Are the flow charts on the website? I don't think they are yet.
Donna, thank you for all the hard work you ladies put into creating all this stuff for us.
Thank Deborah, she made those books for you guys.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, Deborah.
Okay, so you got your flow charts?
Yes.
Okay, so then on the back of the flow chart, it should list the 5 standards of approval for a zone map amendment.
Which flow chart is that?
That one skipped. Sure, I might have goofed on that one.
Get to share your zone map amendment.
I think it's the first one, isn't it?
Zone change.
Zone change, that works. Zone change. On the front side, it gives you kind of the flow chart of, from the time of the application through the staff kind of review, public noticing, and then the flow chart gets down to where you have a public hearing with planning and zoning and a recommendation to city council. And then they do a public hearing all over again and may decide to approve it, or follow the, or deny it, following whatever the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends, and sometimes they go an entirely different direction. But if you turn that over, you'll find 5 standards of approval on the back of the flow chart. And I've kind of just recapped those in really short versions of summarizing those. So when you're looking at a zone text amendment or zone map amendment, trying to figure out if there are any additional studies or plans that you need to see before you can make your decision. In a zone map amendment, oftentimes you add conditions on that zone map amendment to only allow specific uses, to allow for them, if those uses go away, it reverts back to a previous zone, that happens. If you're looking at zone text and you think you want to add conditions, then we probably are going to need to fix the zone text so that it addresses the concerns that you've got, or we bring that back again. You're always looking to see if your amendments are consistent with the future land use map and the goals and policies found in the Hayden Comprehensive Plan. So we did the comp plan first, and now we're going to bring forward some changes, and you always need to go back to those goals and policies should they be approved by council at their public hearing, I believe on the 18th of November. Then if these code text amendments come forward after that new comprehensive plan is approved, should it be approved, you would follow the new future land use map and the new goals and policies. Kind of working through the process. Are any of the codes that we're proposing, they need to make sure that they align with the zone district's purpose and intent. And then are the amendments to the zone text consistent with neighborhood contexts? It's got an S on the end of this because you're looking at today's world and you're also looking at the vision of the city in the future. So is whatever you're proposing meeting the conditions of today as well as in the future? So it's kind of a following it through the process. Standards of approval are only required in Title 11. They don't apply to Title 12 changes. So those are done based on the Planning and Zoning Commission's weighing of whether or not those changes make good solid sense to make those changes to Title 12. Okay, so we've kind of worked a myriad of things over the last year to 18 months. The ones that we're kind of bringing forward specifically to the planning and zoning that would go forward to the city council. Our Title IV, we're going to talk about noise ordinance just a little bit. It's really a city council directed item because it's in Title IV, but it came forward to this body before and there was a lot of good conversation. So before it comes back before city council one last time at a workshop, just want to have you guys weigh in one more time. Title 11, that's that rural zone designation. That's a new added code that we're working on. Wetlands protection, out of the many workshops over the comprehensive plan and through the comprehensive plan, it was very highly identified that we need to have some language in our code that talks about protecting either the wetlands that exist today or the wetlands that are in our area of impact. And that could happen in both Title 8, talking about stormwater, or it could happen in Title 11 as part of the development standards, or it could be a combination of both, so that's why it's in here.
For the wetland stuff, didn't we bring up having an expert come in and dictate what was wetlands, as we are not experts?
Correct, and we've been looking at a myriad of possibilities as far as what kind of language or how much and how little language. Title 11, chapters 1 and 2 are the definitions we've been working through, and you have seen part of those definitions. We're trying to make them more user-friendly for everybody, public, staff, everybody. And then we have some possible changes in the use table also, again, trying to make things more streamlined and more specific. There's been a lot of interest in the public regarding mobile food trucks, and I'll talk about that when we get there. Mobile food trucks really lie in Title III, that is about business licensing and regulation, but it's a use that's tied in the middle of Title XI. So again, one of those kind of walking in both worlds kind of projects. Chapter 4 in Title XI, it's about frontage improvements, and we'll talk more about that when we get there. Chapter 5 is the, right, 5? Chapter 5, I looked at that like 3 times today, and I just kept thinking it was wrong, but we want to add some clarity to part of the signage code, and I have some examples of that. And then in Title 12, the subdivision code has been a code that we've kind of just bandaged along as we've gone, kind of. And just like with Title 11, once in a while you have to dust it off and figure out what the heck's going on. So, for example, it still wants you to submit everything in paper. We don't take anything in paper. We need to have some clarity around when a subdivision is when they've reached a point where they need to ask for an extension. And I can speak from personal experience that I read it one way, Shannon read it a different way, our city administrator read it a third way, and legal counsel read it a fourth way. That does not tell me that's a great piece of code. So time to figure that one out. For a myriad of reasons from the past, the city of Hayden took on the responsibility to record the final plat on behalf of the property owner. Nobody else does that. Literally nobody else does that. Part of the reason that that happened is that we had a subdivision that got final plat approval. And what happens with final plat approval is that the streets and right-of-ways become public right-of-ways with those plats when they record. So all of the utility infrastructure that's in them, whoever has that utility infrastructure can get to it because it's in a public right-of-way. Well, in this particular case, the final plat went to city council, was approved to be recorded, and the infrastructure in it was accepted, became city's infrastructure, or the water district's infrastructure became whoever's the owners of that infrastructure was when it was accepted. They posted their warranty surety. We had a downturn in the market. They didn't plat. They sat on the plat until after the warranty had expired. So 18 months later, land is still one big piece of property. All the infrastructure that had been approved had never, gotten wet, so it's a concern on how well it was gonna hold water after the fact, Anyway, so that's when the city took on the responsibility of recording. Every other property ever went down like they're supposed to and recorded their final plat, but for this one instance, the city took that on. Doesn't make any sense. So the proposal here is to push that back on the developer to get their stuff recorded and upload it, but we're adding a time frame in there of 30 days, and if they don't have it recorded in 30 days, then their approval becomes null and void, both to give us and them some, that's what we're proposing for the fix. And it's not like you can electronically submit it and get it recorded, you actually have to physically walk down there with the stuff. Before, in the process, it would go down to the surveyor, and the surveyor would do his stuff and walk it directly across the hall. Well, what stopped happening is the surveyor was doing his stuff, and then he'd call them to come pick it up. And then they would walk it across the hall and get it recorded. So none of this was working for the benefit of us in this process, hence the reason for the change. And that's just because process has changed at the county. Our process has changed. It's just, didn't work.
Is 30 days a reasonable
Oh,
amount of time? Yeah.
Generally speaking, they get the final plat, they're waiting for you to sign them.
Yeah.
Walk down.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then the last one is Title 12, Chapter 9. It has to do with the platting process of subdivisions. It's the final platting process. It's separating out, currently our process is entirely the same, whether you're doing a condominium, which is basically the airspace in the wall. So if you have a building that has, I don't know, 5 or 6 units in it, whatever, and you condo plat it, you get the space inside, and then all the attic space or all the footing space is common area. And so your utilities can run through all of those because it's all common area. But in a townhome plat, it's like you took a knife or a piece of paper and you slit right down the middle between those two walls of those two units. So you own the attic and you own the whole building walls and all, and you own the footing and you own the ground. So you can't run your utilities through because you don't have common area. And in most cases, most utilities, including the city, like you to have individual services to each of those individual dwellings. And that's not the way the code's written today. So we need to clean that piece up of code to get more in compliance with the other state agencies that are reviewing them for plumbing and electrical. Just kind of bringing that all together. And then the fourth one that we're working on is called a lot consolidation process. So all the way up until now, or not very long ago, if you had 2 lots and you built over the top of the 2 lots, you would go down to the county with a lot consolidation form and you would record it to hold these 2 lots together as a single building envelope. That didn't stop you from going down and saying, hey, I want to break that apart and have my 2 lots back, which is a problem because who gets the building? And has the building been built for a 0 lot line construction? No. And so it led to all kinds of frustration on a lot of people's parts. And so what's happening now is that you either do a boundary line adjustment and move your lines out of the way so you meet a good building envelope, or you do a lot consolidation plat and you plat it over the top of that and end up with 1 lot at the end of the day. And so it's just a process change, and that's new and different as well. All right, so let's rattle off how we got here, just a little more detail. So today, our code says that our quiet times are from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. on the weekdays, and our quiet times on the weekends are from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. And the definition is a little weird, wonky when you read it. And I'm not so sure I'm totally thrilled with the final, but you know, it's always workshop, it might tweak a little bit more. But these 2 no's together make it odd. So that was the first part, is to eliminate that double no going on there. And then I went out and looked at Kootenai County's website to try to figure out what Kootenai County had for noise ordinances and where their quiet zones are. And effectively on the weekdays, their quiet zones are from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., which are an hour later in the morning, but an hour later at night as well than ours are. And their weekends are on Saturday and for Saturday and Sunday are also an hour later, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. On the weekends. And just from an enforcement standpoint, since the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office is who enforces our noise ordinance, sometimes consistency isn't a terrible thing. And this is pretty consistent with what their ordinance is today. So the question that I had for planning and zoning was, at the last time we brought this before planning and zoning, the answer was you didn't want to see any changes. And I recognize that. And then we brought it back before city council, and they were wanting to review it and determine whether or not we could have some flexibility. You know, for people who aren't morning people, 6 a.m. is really early. That's to be, I mean, that's just a fair sentence. The flip side is that for people who have to get up early in the morning, 10 PM is really late. And I think that we would be all remiss if we didn't recognize that on the weekdays. I think that's factual. But let's take that piece out of this conversation and look at the folks that are building in the area or people that work all week. They've got to figure out when to get projects done at home. And the roofers, as an example, in the summertime, it's really hot in the late afternoons. So they either want to get their work done really early in the morning, so they're not, baking on the roofs, or they want to, prep in the evening. I don't know what the right answer is, but I do recognize that people who are in a built environment like their rest. And just throwing out the idea of these times which don't seem, they were worse as proposed previously. These are more, they're not any less hours than they were previously. They're just shifted slightly. Thoughts?
On the hours?
I like them.
I like them too. It makes sense to me, especially if the county is doing it. And there's so many little county pockets all around. And we're currently serviced by county sheriff. So it just makes it a lot easier and there's more continuity. And further thinking about it, if my next door neighbor is having a new driveway put in, I don't think I want construction starting at 6 a.m.
Yeah, it's early.
I'm pretty confident 7 a.m. sounds better to me. But I could be wrong, but I'm also a night owl, so anybody else have any thoughts?
Can't make everybody happy.
Nope. Are you all right if I got rid of this double negative thing going on and is that sounding better,
So what's
worse?
an unnecessary or unusual noise? I'd like to ask our legal, how do you define that?
It's a great question. Probably,
Noises in the ear of the,
How subjective is that?
I think it's very subjective.
Right.
It's probably things like jackhammering or things that you would not expect from your neighbor to normally have unless it's under specific special circumstances.
yeah,
It's been there a long time, that language has.
yeah. That's probably where you get all the calls, somebody saying it's an unusual noise. I mean, construction activity or machinery's obviously pretty easy.
Has there been a poll taken of anything like this? What the residents?
Is it in the
would
survey?
prefer?
Nothing in the survey?
I like
But it hasn't gone away. I guess that's the sentence that,
Right.
I like the changes you made.
How many noise complaints do we get a year?
we don't. They all go to the sheriff's department. So
It'd be
I
interesting to know.
couldn't answer that. All right. So with the new rural zone designation, any parking in that rural zone designation would be consistent with the uses that were on the property. So if they had a single-family residence, it would have 2 parking spaces for the dwelling. If they have an accessory dwelling unit, they need to have 1 more for the accessory dwelling unit. If they had some other allowed use by conditional use permit, they would identify the required parking. So I think we're good there. If you could all open your code to Title 11, Chapter 4. You're looking for 4.4E. G, 4.4G.
Landscape types?
Keep going down. G, like as in goat.
Oh, gee, okay.
For our two new planning and zoning commissioners, the rural zone designation as proposed is somewhere greater than half an acre and somewhere lower than 10 acres in size. It's proposed to be in areas that are more rural in form, like west of Hutter and north of Lancaster. And it is, you have ag that is really all about, farming and animals and what have you, an agricultural kind of use on 10 acres. And then you have this one that's kind of a mixture of the larger farm and a residential suburban, kind of that ag suburban feel of half acre. So that's where this rural zone lands. And so part of what we have to kind of address are, parking standards, landscaping standards, allowed sign types. Those are pretty much the big ones. So if you look at G, you can see that if you have a commercial that's butted up against residential, single family, or mixed residential, those are more intense uses. We have a type 1 landscaping, and if you look directly up in E, it'll tell you what type 1 landscaping looks like.
She just talked about that one.
Wouldn't it be east of Hutter? Not west, because west is Rathdrum.
West of Hutter in our area of impact, areas that we're potentially annexing in,
Thought Rathdrum took that from us.
not all of it.
Not all of it, okay.
And we have our hearing with Kootenai County on areas of impact, planning and zoning this week. So we'll see what they say. So then as you kind of look at this zoning table, you'll see light industrial that's butted up against residential, suburban, single-family residential, and mixed residential. Or how it's butted up against ag, mixed use, and commercial. And then how mixed use is butted up against that residential and non-residential type. So the question that we have for you is with respect to landscaping, do you want it to be treated like the more intense use of residential, single family, and mixed residential? Or do you want this to be more in line with ag, as far as where you want it to land in the buffer requirements that are adjacent to it? And those uses go on to the next page that would be abutting it. So just wanted you to kind of see how they're set up at the moment. We have single-family residential and mixed residential pretty much together because those are the more intense single-family uses, smaller lots. And then we have ag kind of out on its own. So looking for direction.
I think isn't kind of our rural replacing ag, essentially?
It's actually in addition to, so ag got bigger at 10 acres. And rural came in between
So we're looking
at
pretty
10
much on the
acres
previous
and
page
residential suburban.
For, what do
So
we want as a buffer between, do we want to have?
do you want it to be
wanted to-
treated more like in the ag world or more in the single-family R1 world
So the ag one is a bigger buffer?
related to buffering?
Yeah.
Remembering these lots are really large lots, generally speaking, and a type 1 landscaping really creates a buffer that is, got trees and it's got shrubs, and eventually it becomes a hedge wall. So if you've got a really long length of strip of land, landscaping can get quite cost prohibitive for that full length, just as a matter of interest. You have 3 years, 2 to 3 years to have it all grow together so that it kind of really creates that hedgerow. It's really supposed to be a visual separation between those two uses. And then that type 2 landscape buffer is, it has it's 20 feet wide, but you can get it narrower if you put a 6-foot tall fence in. You do the same thing with type 1, you can get it narrower with a 6-foot fence, but type 1, you really have to get a visual buffer so that it's closed. Now, type 2 allows you a little bit more flexibility, but it's still like one tree every 50 feet. Yeah, so it's one tree every 50 feet in that case. But if you have a really long stretch on those larger lots, that can be quite
Probably-
costly as well.
That'd be type 2 then.
Pardon me?
I would imagine type 2 then.
Between those two? So you're thinking about putting that rural in with the ag, treating those very similarly? Is that kind of true for everybody?
Seems reasonable to me.
Is the biggest consideration the cost of landscaping for that buffer?
Well, it's also trying to figure out, what you're buffering. Is your light industrial use, which is the one that would have to do the buffer on the first time, in the first case here. Are you, got it.
Yeah.
Are,
I guess it depends on who's
what,
having to
what
do
are
the
you
buffer.
buffering? That's the question that you're
Yeah.
asking. Are you buffering a parking lot from a pasture? I mean,
Right.
do you really need a hugely intensive, hedgerow across there? Or are you, what's another one? Trying to, and then like mixed use, a mixed use with a mixture of uses, that would be one that had both residential and commercial mixed in there. So it may make sense to have, in this case, if you put it in with ag, it's still that type 2 separation.
It seems like your primary, you're gonna have residential, like, next to rural. You're not gonna have light industrial or mixed use or anything else based on the definitions we've used in our future land use map. So,
Type 2 does seem more
so
reasonable.
type 2 seems, yeah.
Well, I was also thinking that there's a certain bit where you don't want to be all closed in. If you got it,
Yeah.
if your property, you want to be out there, you don't want to have this necessarily a privacy screen. You want to have
See the
that.
views, yeah.
Yeah, you want to see it, for sure.
Okay. All right, then let's go to chapter 5 in your code. And you want to go to 11.5?
That was type 2 on all three, right?
Yeah.
Wait, we're going to 11.5 or
11.5.6.
6?
You see it, all right?
Yeah, that's fine, thank you.
So 11.5.6 provides a table that provides when you can have signage in each zone. And so again, trying to figure out if you want to be, with the ag, or if you want to be with the mixed residential R1 or RS. And note that those are only when you have an allowed non-residential use in the residential piece. But ag just identifies that you can have that signage on those locations. And I think there's only one sign I can think of that's in ag off the top of my head.
Where?
And it's nursery off of Ramsey.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the only one I can think of. So that's about the only sign that I know of that currently exists today that's in the ag zone. Most people that are in agricultural zones are either in remnant lots that are non-conforming and too small, or they're great big pieces that don't have any, other than farming, any use that's occurring on them today. We could add that non-residential uses on the ag as well. If we put rural in there with the ag too. What are your thoughts?
would make sense. If somebody's selling eggs or something, or
Right.
want to have a sign.
Or any of those conditional uses that we
Yep.
kind of talked about previously
Uh-huh.
that were of a non-residential kind of behavior.
Yep.
Home occupations.
Home occupations have to look like a house. Looks like a house, quacks like a house, behaves like a house.
It seems to me the rural areas that we're considering most closely mimic ag already. So it seems that we should keep those as aligned as possible.
Okay. Would y'all concur?
Yes.
Concur. Yes, good. All right,
And
so,
keeping the non-residential use as with the ag and the rural, or keeping it the way that it is now where it allows it outright in that zone?
Is that how ag currently has it?
Yeah, it's currently allowed outright. It doesn't have to be tied to
Residential is just non-residential
non-residential
uses.
uses. So do you want to see all residential with,
Yeah, I think that's the way to do that. Because you have a bunch of people on 5-acre lots, they probably don't want their big message board next
Right.
door.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
I concur
Okay.
with what you said.
so when we did the updates to the zone code about 4 years ago, we took all of the uses that were previously all in verbiage under each zone, and we stuck them in a use table, and we thought we did a really great job with the use table. So if you look at 11.2.4,
Two?
There you go, right to it. Wow.
Yeah, that sure is.
Seasoned pro.
it identifies in the front of it that if the cell in the use table has an A in it, it's allowed outright. If it has a C in it, it's a conditional use permit, requires a conditional use permit. If it has an A and a /C, then some less intense use is allowed outright, more intense use, depending on the line, is allowed by conditional use permit. And if it's blank, you can't have it. And so then we thought we'd be really helpful with ourselves and break up the uses according to kind of bigger headings. And we found that not to be helpful. Not for us and not for the public. So since we are tweaking the use table to potentially add this rural zone designation, this kind of greener color on here, we decided it may be a good time to just fix the fact that it was confusing for everybody. And so we've broken it into 4 categories. Actually, Shannon has broken it into 4 categories. We're still in draft, that's why you don't get to see the whole thing tonight. But we're gonna have residential, primary structures on residential, and then the list of accessory uses you can have in residential. And then the same thing, non-residential primary and non-residential accessory. Because ultimately, if you have a light industrial lot or a commercial lot or a central business district lot, that's really what you're interested in, is those uses, what can I do here versus what can't I do here that I can do somewhere else.
Yep.
And the other thing is that we found that there was duplication of uses, either with the header and the thing down below, or, either the header was the same as the item, which was confusing to folks. Definitions that defined the whole section versus one line. Anyway, people got really lost. So we're trying to reduce confusion. And we're also trying to tie the definitions that are in 11.1 to the use tables that are here so that they work together. So if the use table talks about assisted living, you're gonna find assisted living in the definitions versus convalescent home. Kind of the same, but not. But we're trying to clear up part of those confusions. All right. So I call this mobile food truck pilot take 2, and it's really just a kind of a question mark, kind of trying to get a temperature gauge, I guess, from planning and zoning. So in 2019, the staff wrote mobile food truck pilot code language that went to city council and was approved in 2019, right?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
November 2019 and then,
And then got kind of re-upped again in 2020, and it expired in 2021, this pilot program. But what do we all know was going on? We had COVID. So there was very little participation in the program, but I think that much of that could be contributed to the fact that nobody was out anywhere. And so the purpose of the pilot program is to ensure the public health, safety, convenience, and protection of the city and the citizens of the city, while allowing the city council and city staff, mobile food vendors, businesses, and citizens the opportunity to experience the pilot program and improve on it if the city council chooses to make the program permanent. Well, at the conclusion of 2021, the city council decided that it didn't have enough interest to keep it. Well, we average one phone call a week at least,
minimum, yeah.
at a minimum, from food truck providers looking to see how they can provide services to citizens and employees of the city of Hayden. And we don't have a mechanism to allow that to happen. There's no code that would allow a mobile food truck to operate inside the city limits. However, we know that we have mobile food trucks that are operating for special events citywide without a formal permit process. And they come in for a night or they come in for a weekend. Code enforcement takes way longer than that. Let's get real. And so they come in for those events, they're in and they're gone, and we're not really got any way to protect anything. You know, they could be, I'm not suggesting that they are, I'm just saying that they could be utilizing city services but there's no mechanism to protect those services. So we have pilot code language. We would propose to reinitiate a pilot program for a year or longer, whatever the pilot program is, just to get some better data than this data, which is not great, and see if there's actually an interest in mobile food trucks and whether or not they want to continue to leave the code in this time or not.
A question would be, why would we do another pilot as opposed to just adding it to the code? Because of the success and there's just a lot of frequency of it in every surrounding city.
So there are pros and cons to food trucks from a variety of reasons.
Yeah, of course.
We have very few streets that you can have on-street parking that are collectors, materials, you know, in the city. There are very few locations for parking along the street. If you put a food truck in a parking lot, they're taking up generally speaking, everybody has the minimum amount of parking spaces that they can have on their particular site. So they're taking up parking spaces and they're generating requirement for parking. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there. Brick and mortars are here and they can be accessory to the brick and mortar. We've had seen some really good partnerships that way, but they can also be seen as taking away from the brick and mortars. We have heard that. Signage on a mobile food truck is literally wrapped around the mobile food truck versus signage that isn't allowed for various brick and mortar buildings as far as their sizes go. So we've heard that too. People have asked about connection to the city sewer. So who pays for that? Is that the property owner that they're utilizing for their services or not? You know, how does that work? We don't know the answer. Oil water separators need to be in place if you're going to utilize sewers, and many of the places that mobile food trucks want to go, there aren't oil water separators on the lots to address those concerns. If they want to become more permanent in nature than stop and go kind of behavior, like a night or a weekend. Coffee stands are required, all the coffee locations around town. They could be construed as temporary in nature, but they've all been required to put in their own, meet all of the site setbacks just as though they were a brick and mortar. And so then the question arises, would we do the same for mobile food vendors? So there has been a lot of back and forth, and because this was, I would say, not a good example of a pilot program, I think if we got one going where we didn't have all of those outside constraints, we could get good data and be supportive of whichever way this pilot program went. That's why pilot program versus just introducing it in code.
Yeah, I just think of like where the Owl Cafe was, you know, a gravel lot that is only used by a coffee shop till 4 for the most part. And I think about how the business district is still in the process of being revitalized, and
Yeah.
the foot traffic isn't as high as what some of the businesses would probably want to see. And I know that that could be a huge boost to
Could be. Yeah.
all of the
And-
commerce.
Right, that's one of the reasons that, you know, we kind of talked about it amongst the staff and wanted to bring it back. We just hear so many people who are requesting opportunities
Right.
that we don't have, you know, we don't have it. It was pilot tested. I'm not suggesting it. I'm suggesting that we do another pilot when we don't have COVID going on. We can get good numbers and potentially it will get reinstated.
I think we should do the pilot program, and do we have designated locations where they could?
Nope, nope.
Could we create designated locations?
The pilot program was pretty much trying to help them figure out where they wanted to be and where it works for them,
Okay.
rather than having us dictate that at the moment. We do have areas that make more sense, you know, in the, potentially more sense in the commercial areas and the light industrial areas that may make more sense.
I'm assuming some of these trucks are just self-contained, right? I mean, they don't,
They are.
okay.
It's really the ones that want to land for the long term in a location that are more of a concern than the ones that want to come in for a weekend, because then they take their septage to their own discharge location that they have agreements with.
Is it feasible to reach out to Coeur d'Alene and get their feedback on what works, what doesn't work with their
That's how
food truck programs?
that's how this code was written.
Okay. Yeah, we shouldn't reinvent the wheel.
No, please no.
But see how it works with our unique situation compared to what they have, so give it, but you're only gonna do a year, thinking,
This one started in fall of 2019 and went to the fall of 2021.
okay, yeah, so like,
So I think that,
that would make sense, like 2 years
2
or
years.
something.
I'm in favor of take 2.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
okay. Okay, so frontage, whoop, I keep doing that. Take my hand off the mouse. So frontage improvements have long been a frustration area. Frontage improvements along streets are, I'm just gonna pick some streets.
And talk about sidewalks to nowhere.
Yeah, some of that going on.
Yeah. Honeysuckle, just west of Ramsey.
I'm gonna pick on a subdivision that was already approved. And it's a good example.
Nick, are we okay over here? Good. Just waiting for, we can't talk about anything that's not.
So this is the Fields. It's a subdivision that came in 3 years ago, something like that. And with the subdivision came, they had to put in sidewalks, curbs, sidewalks and swales. That's a subdivision requirement. They extended roads in anticipation of going somewhere,
That
built
property
some
just-
cul-de-sacs. But we identified that they needed to find a second way out because Fanouken wasn't gonna take it all. And so they migrated to Maple, but they didn't own all the property to Maple. So they purchased property as part of their requirement to get to Maple from two property owners. So they purchased the property for the road, they got access, they built the sidewalks, curbs, and swales. And what we heard from the residents on Maple was, well, how come they didn't have to put the sidewalk in? The length of their property. Maple's a pretty narrow street. And subdivisions that go in as a requirement of subdivisions, they build sidewalks and curbs and swales. But these two lots down here that sold right away to them were not a part of the subdivision. They didn't develop. They already had houses on them. So they didn't have to put in the curbs, the swales, and the sidewalk. So what has happened is that the city has identified that when a use develops, when you take a vacant lot, find a vacant lot, that's good. Come over here. City owns these lots, we can talk about them. So when you take a vacant lot that's out here and you were to develop it, put a house on it, then you would be adding a new principal structure to it. Then you would dedicate the required right-of-way accordance to our adopted typical sections, and you would build the required pavement, curbs and swales and sidewalk. Now, if you're a house and you bought this corner lot, that might be a whole lot of right-of-way up Strayhorn and down Smith, hypothetically. If you put in an accessory dwelling unit on that same lot, say you've got the house there, and for whatever reason, you come back later and you say, I want to put an accessory dwelling unit in there. Our current code says, well, you have doubled the intensity of your use because you went from one single-family residence to two single-family residences. Therefore, you should build the frontage improvements on a site. And that's a lot to expect of somebody that's putting in residence that's less than 1,000 square feet to build all the frontage improvements, widening the street, curbs and sidewalk and swale. But today's code requires that construction to occur. So the thought is to try to identify better in a new chart. We'll have what the type of the construction is, residential or commercial, and then what if that use that you're proposing truly does intensify the use that's occurring, and then to what level is that intensity occurring? So maybe it may make more sense. I mean, after all, you can only have accessory dwelling units in residential. We're confused why they have residential in that code. It was probably me that added it. So where staff is suggesting that this probably is no, not put construction of the frontage improvements in there, but leave this a yes. Dedicate that right-of-way today and grant that utility easement today so that should a future project get put together for that improvement to occur on that street, that we would have the right-of-way necessary to do it. So we want to clarify this, when this is happening. We want to create the chart so it's easier to read. And we want to clarify some of the notes in this section to try to make them more user-friendly for everybody. So that's the goal there.
So we would change that part for a residential accessory dwelling unit, get rid of the construction of frontage, so if somebody wants to add an ADU, they don't have to do the swell and sidewalk and stuff.
Correct.
But they'll make that available for future projects.
Correct.
And so that would change as of now or change as of?
Whenever the
once-
ordinance is approved.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, back to signage clarity. So today, we require sign permits for all new signs that have a new structure and a sign. The city of Hayden doesn't have a business registry, and so it's really hard for us to track our new businesses. Just a fact. Good fact or a bad fact, it is just a fact. And so we have a process called a verification of occupancy. That's to help both the business person as well as the owner of the building, as well as staff, to ensure that the business that's going in as a tenant improvement or into a new building actually is in the right zone to go in, and that the building is got the right certificate of occupancy for whatever they're using it for. So the one that I like to use the most is you have a big warehouse building, you have a little bitty office in the front, and you were doing manufacturing in it. And for whatever reason, that stopped, and you rented it to a cheerleading group, and the cheerleaders are in there doing cheerleading routines and all of the gymnastics events that happened with that as well, you know, the big throws and what have you. But the manufacturing is rated for a building for manufacturing, not a building under assembly. And so if something catastrophic happens, the insurance companies come looking to see what their certificates of occupancy are, and it doesn't always work. So we try to keep those current, but it's always a little bit like chasing something after the fact. So one of the things that we do is that when folks come in with new signs, we hand them a verification of occupancy and try to get those done at the same time. If you have a frame and you take out this plastic front, you know, the sign, and you put in a new sign, that doesn't require a sign permit today. So we're missing those people. I'm not suggesting that that would be a huge fee for that replacement sign, but it would be an opportunity for them to come in, have us check to make sure that that still works, get the verification of occupancy, keep going. The other thing is temporary signage. So we have great temporary signage options, plethora of choices for temporary signage, flags and banner signs and signs, small signs you can put in the front, lots of different sign choices. And you're allowed to have 90 days of temporary signage on any lot, anywhere. I don't have a mechanism to figure out when that is. And so when somebody calls in and complains about their neighbor having these temporary signs or too many of them or whatever, we're looking at each other going, well, when did the signs go in? Does anybody remember when the signs went in? You know, it's crazy. So we're proposing to add a permit process that's nominal, a nominal permit process for those temporary signs where I don't care what 90 days somebody picks out there that they want to put their sign up. But we'll have like a sticker or something that we'll be able to put on a sign that tells the 30 days or whatever that they're allowed to have that sign up. And then if somebody, their neighbor comes in and complains, or somebody doesn't like it when they can't see around it on the corner or whatever it is, we have some basis to go back and figure out what the heck the sign was without spending a lot of time at it, which is what we're doing at the moment. So that's what that language proposal is. And it allows us some better enforcement. So as an example, this is a great banner sign. Does our code allow for banners to be on fences? Shannon? Nope. Nope. The only place you can have a banner is mounted to a building. Because the point of the banner signs was that that's a temporary sign placeholder until you get your sign from the sign company put on your building. It was not a replacement for, it was you know, us working with you. Banners are probably, fence banners are a good chunk of our sign code kind of follow-up. And then beyond that, you can only have 3 small signs on your property is a big one that we're always kind of chasing a little bit. But I think that this will help with enforcement, and then we can just keep going forward. So that's a plus. All right, so that's Title 11. Let's jump into Title 12 briefly. We want to update the code to match the process. That's the paper versus portal versus electronic. Get that out of the way. We don't need 3 copies of your Mylars. We only really need the one that we're signing, but, you know, sometimes there's more than that. But we don't keep those at all. The applicant will be required to record within 30 days with their concurrent documents and get those uploaded, or they'll be null and void. Their approval will be. Right now, landscape plans are required by your approvals for a subdivision to be included in your construction plans, but they're not in code. It's always every agreement has to have this additional language to get the landscaping requirement piece met. So we're proposing to add this piece into code so we don't have to keep referencing it on every agreement. And then those plat clarifications that we talked about. All right, so this is the last quirky one that we have. Outdoor storage. So when you think of outdoor storage, it's one of those, what do you think and how does it meet the vision of what you see for the city of Hayden, I guess? So today our code says that if you have an accessory structure, that you can build it in accordance to our design standards, you get a building permit if it is greater than 200 square feet. And if you get like a ziggy shed, for lack of a better way to, one that you can roll in on, you know, skids. If it's less than 200 square feet, you don't need a building permit, but you still need to meet setbacks and design requirements. But the quirker comes here is when you look at other kinds of outdoor storage. So our code currently says that inoperable railroad cars and inoperable truck trailers are required to have a conditional use permit in order to be placed. Now, the inoperable railroad cars, that comes specifically from a caboose that sits on Orchard Avenue, on the south side of Orchard Avenue. That's where that one comes from. I don't know of anywhere in town that has inoperable truck trailers on it, but it doesn't say that those truck trailers have to be off their wheels. It just says truck trailers. So you could move one in and park it, and there it is, and eeks. And then it also doesn't address pods or similar short-term containers. Most notably, they land in the driveway of homes because they can't generally get them delivered to the back. Our code requires all accessory storage to be 35 feet from the front property line, so pods don't meet any of those setback requirements. This is a container storage that's just a container. It's not off of a truck and it's not off of a railroad car. And this graphic is a truck transport container that was off of a railroad car and moved to this permanent location. So what staff is looking for is a little bit of direction. We have pretty much said that these aren't addressed in our city code and therefore really aren't allowed, but we recognize that there's a use for them. But then the question is, what is short-term and how do we address it? If you look at outdoor storage in
1125I.
there you go.
1125I.
I.
I'm just all over the place.
The only reference that it makes to storage as far as a time frame goes is all the way down at the very bottom, just before the J. And that is that only specific to inoperable or not currently licensed vehicles shall not be allowed on property for longer than 28 days before they're behind a side obscuring fence or inside something. So I don't know what to do with the pods question.
I'm not sure if 1125I is, it says the temporary hardship use shall be in compliance with all the
I
frontage.
think you have an old code book.
There's a bigger eye.
Oh, that is lowercase I.
Yeah.
We're looking for uppercase I. All right.
Uppercase I.
Oh, I got you, we were under, yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't think that we should write anything
Oh,
for
HIJK,
pods
I gotcha.
in particular, because those are paid for.
I did the same.
People have to pay for those, right? Like they
There we go.
pay for them to load them up to move
Outdoor
and stuff.
stuff, yeah, okay.
I think we should leave that one alone, because that could be, you know, a weekend, or that could be 30 days or whatnot.
It could be longer depending on how long they're renting them for storing stuff.
Yeah, I think the pods would probably fall under that 28 day also. You know, somebody's moving and they're trying to get stuff in and out or
Yeah.
before close,
Yeah, I think a month should be.
or 30 days, yeah.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
to
So
me,
if
that's
they're
more
longer than
enough.
30 days, would they require a conditional use permit?
No, you just can't
Oh,
do
we gotta
it.
get them out of there.
Yeah, you
But
gotta,
how do you know how long they've been there? Right, so then it
Right.
goes back to the temporary permit
Yeah.
with the little sticker.
Yeah, I like that.
or 30 days from the first complaint.
Ask the neighbor.
Yeah.
So if there is a complaint, we could use that as a
As a-
record,
yeah,
right?
the clock
Without a
starts.
sticker?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 30 days from sticker being provided.
Tagged.
Yeah, tagged.
And are you thinking that these storage containers should also fall under the conditional use permit if they're permanent? Or are you thinking that you just don't want to allow them?
We should allow them, so we need to look for a mechanism to allow them.
Yeah, because some people are using them for like she sheds and stuff like that, so I think it'd be a CUP, yeah. You don't like CUPs?
No, we're just trying to figure out how to enforce it. So are you thinking that you would have some additional buffers for them over and above this kind of stick-built structure? Are you thinking that they would fall in, because remember, you can have these, not good, bad, or otherwise.
Yep.
You can have them 5 feet from the rear and 5 feet from the side,
Yep.
yard setbacks,
And what from the front, 35?
35 from the front. So they can be really close to the neighbor's property line.
Yep,
I'm not saying that's good or bad, I'm just
right,
throwing that out as,
trying to help the neighbors.
And what are the setbacks for a shed greater than
Same, right?
Same.
200 square feet?
same.
Okay.
Any shed actually has to, but less than 200 square feet, still has to meet the setback
They do.
requirements.
Yeah.
So,
So unless there's an easement or some other,
What if it's not possible for them to be set back 35 feet? Is there some sort of mechanism where they can still have it and it be like 25 feet or 30 feet based on their property?
if they have some, limiting factors that are, not the same as any other limiting factors in the city. So we always use the example of like a big boulder, you have a big boulder, you can't get things to fit because you got this big rock formation. Not saying that's the only way,
Yeah.
but that's an example, a non-movable way to get there. Then you could do a variance request.
Okay.
But it can't be for, variances aren't granted for convenience and they're not granted for profit. Is that true?
glad we got rid of our old shed.
And on properties that have septic tanks on them, they're still using septic service, because we've got a few of those still in the city. You really can't put any permanent structure on top of the septic tank and there are concerns about on the drain field, so you have to get permission from Panhandle Health first.
And the rest of the requirements for outdoor storage apply, so they need to be on hard surface, or, so like gravel, concrete, asphalt.
I was thinking make them follow the same
Yeah,
code as
as
a
the,
shed. That's a shed.
Okay.
Not maybe as good looking. Some times they're better looking because they do cool stuff with them.
And you still want to leave this inoperable railroad, do you want these still to be allowed uses as well?
Yeah.
Or only by conditional use, only
Conditional.
by conditional use permit?
Yeah.
All right, so for those of you that have been here through these miscellaneous code conversations, did we miss anything that
Code
you
where
guys
we
would
get
have
paid.
expected to see it? Pardon me?
The code where we get paid.
Try.
I know it's come up in the past, businesses that have like LED signs, what is the current code for that? Because I'm fairly certain there's a business that has put up a very bright sign
Just let us know and we'll follow up.
recently.
Just, we tell that to everybody. If they have a sign that's too bright, let us know and we'll follow up.
I will talk to you afterwards.
Okay?
What about verification of occupancy and getting that added to code as a requirement? Would that go under licensing or under uses?
It's under building, it's under Title IX.
Building? Okay.
Anything else?
Good job, Donna.
Did we figure out what we're gonna do with bees? I know we talked about that.
We have not yet.
We still have them in as commercial in ag and rural and hobby for other residential uses.
See the bear that ate all the bees? Spokane, in a rural area.
What happened?
A bear got into their beehives and ate them all.
Oh, wow. Always after that honey.
News yesterday.
So we want to workshop these a little bit with council just to make sure they're on the same page as well. After that workshop with council, then we'll start the public hearing process for these code amendments. Do you want to see them in red line version before we go to public hearing?
Is there,
Because we can have another workshop if you want to do that.
I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
is there, anything in code that people can dedicate right away? So for instance, like on Maple,
Yes.
yeah, okay. So if somehow monies came available to put sidewalks down that road, is the right of way already dedicated, or is it?
No.
No,
Not today.
it have to be out of the goodness of the heart of the residents, okay?
Part of the most expensive part of doing any roadway improvements is right-of-way acquisition. That is.
Because
the
the
most
right of ways before were much smaller. Yep.
And Maple and Reed were both here, they've been here a really long time.
Yep.
They're fully built environment, and at the time that they were approved, sidewalks weren't required.
And same thing like on Strayhorn, where it's one way.
Strayhorn became one-way as a result of, it's not in our jurisdiction, important to note that piece. It's only in our jurisdiction from the Castlewood Court subdivision, Forest Hills, south to Honeysuckle.
That's right, it's Hayden.
So
Lake.
everything north of that is in the city of Hayden Lake, or it's in Kootenai County. But Strayhorn was also built and got built upon, and their solution for the ability for their pedestrians and golfers and folks to walk along the road was to make it one-way and create a walking path. Creating it one-way had a lot of impact on City of Hayden streets as folks were trying to figure out how to go north. And so Hillview, as an example, was a residential street in a residential neighborhood, never envisioned to be a collector street, never, ever, ever envisioned to be that. And it ultimately ended up getting striped because there was so much traffic going northbound as the couplet to Strayhorn coming southbound that they became a collector out of sheer force, which was really unfortunate.
For some.
It was unfortunate to push that
I
additional.
recuse myself. I live on that one-way street.
Oh, well, all right. But
I used
it
to.
pushes, in my opinion, and I
Well, of
guess
course it
that's all it
does.
is here,
I
is
know.
that it forces a need for transportation
Yeah.
onto another jurisdiction.
Yeah.
And their citizens when it wasn't
Yeah,
them that were using
I
it.
understand.
Anyway,
It's like when Dalton refused to do the roundabouts at Prairie and,
Fourth.
and,
Yeah.
and, what was
Fourth.
the other one?
Prairie and Fourth.
Canfield, yeah.
Yeah.
When they had the grants and we had the grants, anyway.
Not our fault.
Different story.
Yeah. All right, got any other questions?
No.
That's all I've got. Comprehensive plan is going to, city council on,
18, November
18th.
18th, yeah.
yeah,
Next Tuesday, or Monday, or Tuesday?
Wednesday, 2 weeks.
2 weeks from tomorrow.
Yeah, 4th, 18th, yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You have, 2 public hearings at their next meeting? 1 public hearing at their next meeting?
1.
1 public hearing at your next meeting?
I will not be here. Joel, will you be here next meeting?
Yes,
Yes, okay.
yes, I will be here.
I'll be in Mexico. I
I
might
think
be
that
able to
means you're
Zoom.
leading.
I'm reading?
I think that means you're leading.
Oh, I don't know how to do that. No, but, no, but anyways.
We don't have a vice chair, and I'm pretty sure that's what he just asked you to do, so.
I'm feeling a little sickish.
Do you have a director's report for us?
That was it, that was it,
That was it?
that was it.
Hayden Lights Parade participation.
So the commissions have all been asked to see if they wanted to participate in the Hayden Lights Parade. I think in zoning doesn't, it would be good to get out and participate, I think.
Should we do a float?
Yes. Or if you have cool cars.
Yeah,
You just have a big sign at the flum and
That says, please don't
run
egg
that
us.
down the street. I'll be skiing.
well, ski on the back of a trailer.
Oh, yeah, we could do a,
Now, what are the requirements for the trailer? What are the dimensions, the setbacks, all that stuff?
Let us know if you guys want to participate, and we'll
Yeah, we've just
let
got to
Deborah
let,
know, and
we've
then
got to
we'll
let
them know.
recreation
throw
know.
candy at the kids and,
The unwanted Halloween candy?
yeah. Okay, is that all we have for tonight? We are adjourned.
All right.